Welcome to Rosy's radio show, where books are devoured, crushes are validated, and opinions are delightfully unfiltered. Join for the giggles, save for the sass. Kelsey, thank you so much for being here again. It's always a pleasure. It's always so fun. Honestly, it's always so fun talking to you.
It is. It's a blast. Thank you for having me back.
Of course, of course. So we are going to be chatting about our January reads. This is our January wrap-up episode. I have some rereads I have some new ones. I have some rereads. So it'll be interesting. I did a little bit of a mix this month. It's not all like romance and fantasy. So I don't know. I just felt like I needed a little some you know how you need like a little palate cleanser sometimes. Like you just need to you need a break.
Yeah,
So
totally get that.
that was me this month. I did a little palate cleanser. So, anyway. Um Tell me, what are you currently reading? Like what's going on? What's going on with you? What have you been up to over there? Oh, I know Onyx Storm. We could talk about that. Like just a little bit, but
it's Onyx
right.
Storm. That is my current, and I'm in an attempt to hopefully finish by Friday evening, which is just in a few days. I am listening and reading, so I got the book on Audible, so that whenever I'm not physically at home reading, I can be like listening as I'm driving or whatever. Because we've got the event in St. Louis, which I mentioned before. So like I said, I'm listening and reading, trying to get it done. And it's so hard. I feel like I'm hopping on Bookstagram and I'm doing a little bit of scrolling. And then I'm like, oh, I see something related to the Empyrean series.
Yes.
I'm done because I can't have spoilers right now.
I know.
But you're done. You finished it.
I'm done. I finished. Yeah, I could talk about it when I go through my my list, but I'm not going to give anything away. But
yes, no spoilers, please.
No spoilers.
Not yet.
But no, it was good. It was good. It was very good. I have thoughts, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And I'm not going to give anything away, but I'll just tell you my overall feeling about the book. So I'll tell you about it a little bit later. But
awesome.
I have a lot of thoughts and opinions. But of course, we also have our book club for Rosy Sundays coming up. I think the meeting is February 9th, maybe. So I know that is going to be a jam-packed meeting because everyone has opinions.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's across the board a little bit. It's across the board a little bit. So we're going to see. So, I'm excited though. I'm excited. So you're doing the Onyx Storm and what else? Is that it for right now?
That's like I said, because I'm listening and reading. So that is my sole focus at the moment.
Yes. Okay. What am I reading right now? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm actually not. I took a little bit of a break. So I finished Onyx Storm on maybe like 4 or 5 days ago, and it was pretty quick. I read it pretty quick. But I am gonna start. I think it's Powerless by Powerless.
Well, there's several books called Powerless.
I know.
Which one?
Christina
Lauren Roberts.
That's the one.
Okay.
That's the one.
Awesome.
Ada, our girl Spicy Nook, told me to read that because I was talking to her and I was like, I need something. I don't know what to do with myself right now, like after Onyx Storm. So she was like talking about, I guess that book is the 3rd or the 4th book is coming out in April. Okay. So in the Powerless like series or whatever. So she was like, read that. It's really good. So I'm gonna start that. I meant to start it yesterday, but the day got me. And so I haven't started it yet, but that's what I'm hoping to start reading like tonight.
Great. That'd be awesome. And I've heard it's really fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get on that train and we'll see what happens. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. So let's get into our January reads. How many do you have? What did you read?
I have 9.
Look at you.
Well, thank you. A lot of those are audiobooks. I read 9 in January. However, I'm going to say 10 because I read a 5-book series that was mostly read in January, but I did the first book in December. So I read a 5-book series, and then I have 3 others that I can talk about as well. How many did you have? Do you remember?
I think I had 7, but 2 of those were
Okay.
rereads.
Okay.
Which
Still
yeah,
counts as
it's
a read.
they cut yeah, thank you. Counts as a read. Although Goodreads they need to have like a reread section because
They do.
there's no reread section. And rereads count.
They
Like
do
what's up with
count.
that?
And you're right. I don't even know how to. I know that you can like add multiple date ranges, like to, I guess,
Oh, is
signify.
that what you
But
do?
well, that's what I was told. However, when I attempted to do that, like when I reread Avatar, it changed or it did something weird. So then I tried to erase it, and then it changed my Goodreads goal, and I just got super frustrated, and I decided to just not. We'll have to figure out Goodreads. I know there are
Yeah,
a couple
we
other
gotta
apps
send them we gotta send them
now,
a message.
and just figure it out. Bottom line, rereads do count absolutely 100%. So
Yes. So
good for you.
I had a couple of rereads. Um, and then as I said, I really haven't read in like 4 days, so I'm kind of like lagging behind over here, but
It's
I'll
all
catch
good.
up. But anyway, so why don't you talk about your give us your list. Tell us.
I'll start with the 5-book series. Let's just get that out of the way. And I have mentioned it on some previous episodes, but this is the Vancouver Agitators series by Megan
Mhm.
Quinn. And if you don't know Megan Quinn, you need to know her, especially if you love romance, interconnected standalones, if you love spice and witty banter. And my favorite thing about Megan's books is that all of her MNCs are like just so devoted to their ladies. Like
Mhm.
think the world of them, put them on a
Right.
pedestal. So if those are your vibes, you need to check out Megan Quinn. So in a nutshell, this series is a hockey romance
Mhm.
series that takes place in Vancouver, Canada, and it centers around 5 members of the team, 5 of the guys, so they each have a book, and naturally all the girls become friends with each other because the guys are all friends. And
Right.
you've got some different tropes in there. So you've got things like enemies to lovers. There's an age gap. There's some fake dating. There's like a live-in
Mhm.
roommate situation. You've got a pregnancy trope in one of the books. So I feel like she
Oh,
kind of hits a bunch of
covers
stuff.
it. Yeah.
Um, they've all been great. I think my favorite of the 5, I was talking to our friend Ada about this because she's read them as
Mhm.
well. Her favorite was number 5. I love number 3. That I'll just talk a little bit about that one. You had an age gap with some fake dating. Like starts off like the girl kisses the guy in the bar. It's a total stranger. They develop a fake relationship from there. She's like in college and she's a spunky girl and she's with the grump, and I don't know. That was a great story. So this
Mhm.
series as a whole was excellent. And I'm
Okay,
really
and
sad
tell
that
me
it's
again, the
over.
Vancouver Agitator series by
Yes,
Megan Quinn.
by Megan Quinn.
Okay.
Um, I and
Now
I
is
will
that
just
over? Like that series is over, or will there be more books?
yes, it is. The one actually the 5th one was released just a couple of months ago, I believe, and that was the last one in the series. So I'm really sad. However, I'll leave you guys with this before I move on. Megan Quinn has a few of her series that I don't want to say connect, but you'll see characters just make little cameos. So I don't want to call it like a full crossover, but there's some
Mm.
cameos. And I think that's even cooler than just these interconnected standalones within a series when you have multiple
Right.
series.
Right.
So
Yep.
I'm gonna have to stop talking about it or we'll be here all night. But
Yep.
that was an excellent series.
That's kind of like the Elsie
Um,
Silver stuff. Like they're all kind of
yeah.
interconnected, which I love her, but
Yes, that's a good
her
example.
series are like all kind of connected. So they're fun to read because you know the characters. You're familiar with a lot of the characters. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I also read The American Roommate Experiment, which is by Elena Armas, and that's the second book in her Love Deception series. And oh my gosh, new favorite author, Sabrina, Elena Armas.
right.
Also, um, excellent emotional buildup, So when you get to the steamy stuff, you just feel so like warm and fuzzy inside.
Right.
This story was sort of the best friend's cousin romance
Mm.
trope, and we had some experimental dating that led to obviously real feelings. You had a Latino male main character, and oh my gosh, if you want cutesy meets swoony, this is the
Okay.
book. And I think I told you about her.
You did. And I
Because
think you
the
told me
first
that she was like one of your new favorite authors.
yes,
Yeah.
the first book was called The Spanish Love Deception. So if you've heard of that one, this is the
Mm-hmm.
follow-up
Okay.
there. Um, I read Una Out of Order, which
Yes.
was a magical realism selection that was chosen by my school's book club. Just finished. We actually met at work today to discuss it, and most people loved it. And one person was like, "I gotta say though, because we read The
Oh yeah.
Unmaking of
How was that meeting?
it was the meeting for the book. You mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Everyone
yeah.
loved it.
Most people did. One person thought it was fine. A couple people, myself included, were just a little confused. Sometimes when you get into these books with time travel as an
Mhm.
aspect, like
Right.
making some of those connections is not always
Mm-hmm.
clear. But I felt the same way when we read The Unmaking of June Farrow. I was like, okay, but I'm here
Yes.
for the vibes. I get the
Right.
general gist of the story. So um, basically, this story is about a woman who leaps to a different age every year
Mm.
of her life on New Year's Eve. And she finds letters from herself, from her future self, um, telling her kind of what to expect and just the relationships that come and go along the way. It was just a very sweet story to make you think and
Right.
appreciate the present. So I would recommend that one for sure.
I definitely want to read that. I need to. I feel like I need to mix up my TBR a little bit, so I might throw that on there.
Yeah. And my last read was a romance by Kristen Granada called Hating the Boss. Have you heard of
Mhm.
Kristen?
No, I haven't.
Okay. She's a self-published author. She's got a ton of books. I believe actually this one, Hating the Boss, was her first ever. So this was a story, enemies to lovers, um, boss employee. This was about a teacher, a kindergarten teacher who has a relationship with her school principal. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, but it was
that's
a
interesting.
isn't it interesting? It was the setup here was they met in a bar as strangers. This was before he
Mm.
got the new job, right? They had a little, I would say, half night stand together.
I'm sorry, you said a half night. They had a
A
half
half
night
night
stand together.
stand.
So
Yes.
I'm gonna need you to clarify, Mrs. Lang, what a half night stand is, because
Okay.
I don't know.
So okay, and I actually read a Christina Lauren book. The title was called "My Favorite Half Night Stand," so that's how I learned this phrase. So basically, half night stand meaning
Like they left at 3 a.m. Like what's up with
no no
that?
no
They left. Like
half, meaning
I
like
gotta go.
we don't get to home base. We do some other things,
Oh,
but we don't get to home base because something interrupts us or something whatever for whatever
okay.
reason we just don't get to go all the way. So
A half
so it
night stand. I've been
a
schooled.
half night stand. So yeah, so in this story, she goes home with this handsome guy from the bar, has no
Right.
idea that this man's about to be her boss. And
Oh my
things
goodness.
things start happening, but she's so drunk that she ends up getting sick. Um, and that's why things don't continue all the way.
I
Um,
see. I see.
yeah, yeah. Anywho, so the other sort of plot line of the story is so they wake up in the morning. Actually, she leaves, right? He wakes up in the morning, finds that she's gone, but he also finds that a family heirloom of his is missing. And so he's
Uh-oh.
like, oh my gosh, did this girl, this like stranger, did she rob me? So then when they link up at the school later, you're like, oh, this is going to be awkward and tense.
Mm.
But anyway, so enemies to lovers there. And then they end up together at the end. Obviously, I won't give any more spoilers than that. So that's kind of the vibe of the story, though.
I
So that was
gotcha.
a
I
quick
gotcha.
That was like a 6-hour audiobook. That was a quick
Okay.
read.
And
Oh,
tell
and you
me
know
the name
what?
of that one again.
Hating the Boss by
Hating the
Kristen
Boss. Okay.
Hating the Boss by Kristen Granada. And you know
Okay.
what? I just realized that wasn't actually my last one. I lied.
I was gonna
I
say
lied.
you.
I
You
lied.
know, I'm not a teacher, but I didn't
I
really add
counted
up.
wrong. I
Yeah.
counted wrong. Because I have all my notes in front of me like a crazy person and I got a little mixed up. Okay, last one. Last one.
Okay. Okay.
This was an audio original, audible original, whatever they call it. It's called Sweet Talk by Cara Beth
Okay.
Stone.
Okay.
It's the second book in her series called Love Line. So the first book in the series is a girl who calls into a customer service line. And so that's the guy. And so they talk on the phone, eventually meet in person. And then this story, Sweet Talk, was stemmed from like an accidental, I texted the wrong person situation. And then it just turned into it's about two insomniacs who just talk every night because they can't fall asleep.
Sleep.
And
I gotcha.
and she knows who he is, but he doesn't know who she is. And so, oh my gosh, but it's the cutest little story ever, the cutest series. There's no spice in these, which Sabrina, you might be surprised to hear. You're like, what?
Girl,
Kelsey,
I need a little
you're
spice
reading
though.
you're you're
I need
reading
a little
something without
spice.
spice. I feel like my friends are like, Kelsey, you're just so obsessed with smut. And I'm like, hey now, I can read things without. I enjoy a little steamy
Are
action,
you
but
on a
I'm not.
are you on a quest to try to prove that to them? Because they were just they would just win. I mean, I need it.
I know, I know.
But I
I
guess if the
enjoy that.
banter and everything else is good, it's fine. It could work.
Well,
It could work.
and here's what I'll say in closing. What I like about Cara Bastone, and I think it's the mark of a really talented writer, if you can create such emotional buildup and tension between your main characters without any of that physical
Right. Sexy
contact. Like,
time.
because let's be honest, everyone can write smut.
Right.
Everyone can. But not everyone can really convey those deep emotional
Right.
connections. And
Yeah.
so these are also really short reads. I think this was like a 5-hour audio. So if you just want, I read it or I listened to it in a day. So if you just
Right.
want something quick, so that was actually my last one. And then as we've mentioned, I'm in the depths of Onyx Storm, and I'll have to report back on that one. But it was good January. So
Yeah.
lots of romance. I had one book outside of the romance genre, but I'm proud of myself for that.
Okay.
Okay, you're
I
up.
know. I always say, I love romance. I love all romance, spice, romantasy, fantasy. I love all there's even just a fantasy book. I could do just a fantasy book with like no romance. Um I just love like, because I'm like a Lord of the Rings fan and like I like all that stuff, like all that all my whole life. Um but sometimes I like to say that we need to expand our brains. And so
Yes.
this was a little bit of that kind of month for me. I kind of took a step back from there are some I do have some romance. I mean, I have some fantasy and romance stuff on here, some romantasy, I do. But I have a little bit of a mix this month. I think I just needed to kind of, as I said, do a little palette cleanser, start over, do a little refresh on my TBR. So I have a few different. There's a couple of. I have historical fiction, I have fiction, but I do like to like read those because I don't know. It's nice to come out of your genre every once in a while and kind of expand your brain. I like to say expand your brain, grow my mind.
Absolutely.
And then I don't know, you come back to your genre and it feels good and you appreciate it even more. So, um, I actually started with The Nightingale,
Oh,
which I
such
just
an
recorded
incredible
that.
book.
Yeah, that was an incredible book. I recorded that episode last week with Nicole. So if you guys are interested in my full review of The Nightingale, mine and Nicole's or Nicole and I, you guys can go back to episode. Wow, are we on episode 5
Or
now? I think it
this
was
is
episode
5.
4. This is 5.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you can go back to episode 4 and listen to our full review of The Nightingale, which was last week. But so I won't give anything away. Um, but excellent book. I actually gave it 4 stars. And I know most people would say, "What? That's a 5-star book. It's a 5-star read. That's a must read." I do consider The Nightingale to be a must read book because it is historical fiction, because it is based on a lot of truths. Um, it's an important story to read, I think. So if you're looking for a good historical fiction read that's emotional, that's poignant, that's gonna make you feel, The Nightingale is an excellent choice. Um, I gave it 4 stars, and the only reason why I did is I think so I had just finished The Great Alone. I ended the year with The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, same author. So I ended 2024 with The Great Alone, and I came into 2025 with The Nightingale. So I did a back-to-back Kristen Hanna. I did 2 back-to-back reads by her, and, um, I have learned that I the first thing I learned is that I need a break between Kristen Hanna books
Yeah.
because,
It takes an
she
emotional toll on you.
it does, it really takes an emotional toll, and not in the way that, like, a fantasy or romantasy book does. It's a little different, and it feels different too because this is based on truth, and
Mhm.
this is based on actual things that happen in history, and so it does feel different. It lands differently, and so the recovery is a little different, but so that's the first thing is that I learned I need to take a break between her stuff. And actually, Adina told me that a few weeks ago, and I was like, you know what? I didn't know back then, but now I know it's true. Um, but the second thing that I learned was that, or that I realized was that I actually liked The Great Alone a little bit more. And I don't even know. Uh, I think she's better known for The Nightingale. Maybe she's. I think she's known for The Great Alone, but I think The Nightingale, she's probably better known for, and even better known for The Women, maybe?
Oh, I feel
Um,
like The Women was talked about. Well, that was her most recent
that
release,
was her
right?
most recent book, The Women,
Yeah.
yes. So, that was I think that came out last year, and I know it very well. I think it won a bunch of awards, but,
Did you
um,
read that one?
I have not read it yet, but again, I need to take a break. I can't do it yet.
Yes.
I gotta wait. I gotta wait a little while. Did you read it?
No, I've only read The Nightingale by her, but I really
Okay, so
loved
we
it.
can do a buddy read on that. We'll do an episode on
Okay.
The Women.
All right.
Um, but I need a break for now. So, um but yeah, The Great Alone was, and I need to do an episode on that because I I I think I told you no, that was why am I talking about The Great Alone? It's not on my list, but anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but the point is that
Okay.
it was really good, and I liked it a little bit better, so I think coming off of The Great Alone and going into The Nightingale, I was a little, like, jaded. Not jaded, but, I already had, like, thoughts, um, and so I think The Nightingale didn't land, uh for me the way it might land for some other people because I had just finished reading The Great Alone. So that being said, The Nightingale is an excellent book. I would totally recommend it. Again, if you're looking for a palate cleanser, something out of the romance fantasy genre, Nightingale is a winner. I read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I know that was one of our book club picks for Rosy Sundays. There were a lot of mixed feelings about that one. I don't think you read that, right? You didn't read it, did you?
I
You tried to.
started
You
to,
started
and
to.
I just could not get into her writing style. I found it
Yes.
confusing.
Yes.
The
Yes.
storyline sound or the plot sounded very interesting, but I just couldn't get into the writing, like I said. But what did you
Yeah.
think? Because you made it through.
So I rated it 3 stars. Not to say that I wouldn't recommend it. I would. Because it's an interesting book. It's very interesting. It's very different. The book is based on grief. It's these 2 brothers, that are I think one is, like, 22 and the other one's, like, 32, something like that. Their father dies, and it's their grief journey, um, through relationships,
Mhm.
through their relationships. And so I mean, there's a lot of, like, mental health topics. There is suicidal ideation and thoughts, so it's heavy. It's a very heavy book. I applaud her, Sally Rooney, for taking on topics. Um, and I think it does resonate with a lot of readers. I think she might have won a Goodreads award for that one, or she was up for a Goodreads award for 2024 for that book. But so a lot of people loved it, but for me personally, it was really heavy. But I definitely would recommend it. Again, it's just grief. It's a parent died, and they're kind of dealing with their feelings and how those feelings play into their relationships. So,
And I
um,
feel like a lot of readers who have lost their own parents probably could relate to parts of that.
yes, absolutely. I totally agree. And also, uh, I will say, if you're listening and you want to read this book, I think one of the characters, I think it's the older brother. Um, I think his name is Peter, if I'm remembering correct. I think it's Peter and Ivan. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I think it's Peter is the older brother. His point of view, a lot of people found hard to read. And I think that's why a lot of people who did not give it higher than, for let's say, 3 stars, um, it was because, I mean, there probably were a lot of reasons why, but um, right off the bat, his point of view, because it kind of goes back and forth between him and his brother. Um, he is struggling with mental health. He's struggling with anxiety, and he thinks in short sentences, like incomplete sentences. And so the writing style, she writes in incomplete sentences because it's
That
his
must
thought.
be that must be
Yes,
where I was getting
yes,
a little stuck.
yes. A
Okay.
lot. I feel like a lot of people, like when we discussed it last week in book club, they were like the people who couldn't finish it were like, I couldn't get past it. It was so hard to read. And when the next chapter came and it went to, I think it was Ivan's point of view, it was a relief because it was like regular writing, like complete sentences again. And I do agree with that. When it got to his chapter, I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because you have to be so engaged with Peter's chapters because he's going through it. He's going through it. And his his mental his sanity is just he has a lot of anxiety and it comes out in the way he thinks and the way he speaks and the way she writes. She's writing like she's in his head, and they are very choppy sentences, and so it's hard to read and stay. And you're like, "What?" And I don't think she uses quotes. Like she doesn't. You kind of don't know when he's thinking or versus when he's speaking, and so it's a little challenging. But it is a good book, as I said. It's an interesting read, and I think again, palate cleanser. If you want something a little bit different, a little fiction, switch it up. I think go for it. Why not? You'll be done with it in a couple of days. I also read The Book of Doors,
Okay.
magical realism, a little bit of time travel. Did you read it?
Nope.
No, you
I
didn't
did
read
not.
it. Okay. So it was a spectacular story. It was a ride. It was an adventure. It was magic. It was really good. It was basically a story about a woman that works in a bookshop, and one of the customers there dies and leaves a book for her on the table. And she finds the book, and this book is actually a very special book. It's one of a few in the entire world, and it's being hunted. The book is being hunted by like rare book people, and some of them are bad, some of them are not so good. And it ends up in her hands, and it's a story about. It's kind of like a little bit of a mystery because you have these people hunting this book. Um, but it's also a little bit of magical realism because the book has magic. And so because of the magic, the book kind of goes back and forth in timelines. So it was a really fun book. Different, kind of like the unmaking of June Farrell, like not expected, not emotional like June Farrell. It wasn't emotional like the unmaking of June Farrell, but it had that feeling of like magical realism that was really special. So I liked that a lot. And that was by Gareth Brown. Um, then Oh, so wait, before I get into Onyx Storm, I did rereads for ACOTAR. Obviously, we had our ACOTAR episode a couple of weeks ago. So that was, fun to reread for the first time. And then I did my Aquaman.
You went right into it.
I
You
I
went right into
couldn't.
book 2.
I was trying to hold on. I was trying not to read book 2 because I know we have our recording for Aquamath in a couple of weeks, but I couldn't. I couldn't stop myself. So I read Aquamath, and
I
now
can't fault you for it.
I know it's just so good.
It
Even the
is.
second time around, it's just so. SJM is just so good. I mean, oh, she's just so good. But I may have to actually read it again before we do a recording in a couple weeks because I want
Oh
to be
my
fresh
gosh.
for it. I know it's out of
Ugh.
control, right? I'm out of control. I'm out of control. I need to
You
stop
can do
myself.
it. You can do it.
Maybe I'll just do like a first and last chapter kind of thing. But you know what
That's
it is?
fair.
I have a lot of theories. I didn't have these theories the first time around because I was just learning. Like I was just trying to figure out who was who. Like
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean? What is what? Who was who? But now that I know the story, I'm like, oh, but I have all these like theories on like this and that. And I really want to talk to you about them like badly.
Well,
So
you are a fast reader, so if you want to read it again, I'm sure you'll find
yeah,
the time to do so.
yeah, maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. So those are my rereads.
Okay.
Um, Onyx Storm.
You have to convey your emotions without spoilers because I'm not
I
done, but
know.
I
I
cannot
know.
wait to talk to you about it. I've heard
Oh my
my
God. I'm
sister-in-law,
dying
my
inside.
sister-in-law told me she's unwell. She finished
Unwell is
today.
not the word. I'm sick, ill.
Sick? Oh no. What am I in for? Trouble.
Prepare yourself.
Heartbreak. Okay, I can't. Okay.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything,
Oh,
but I will
Onyx
say that I'm a
Storm.
little unwell and I feel like the whole world like if you've read it, you understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm going to just tell you that, and again, we have our Onyx Storm book club and we have our Onyx Storm. I'm recording an Onyx Storm episode with Brittany and Sabrina. Oh, I think this weekend, actually. That episode is coming out I think the second week in February. But anyway, so I'll talk more then. But I will just leave you with this. When I finish the book, I think there's a little bit of a cliffhanger, right? You know that.
I know
I'm
there
not
is a
spoiling that for you.
cliffhanger. I don't know what it is, but I know there is
Yeah.
a
Okay.
cliffhanger.
So
Yes.
I'll say there's a little bit of a cliffhanger. I don't know that it's as bad as Iron Flame. It might
Okay.
not be as bad of a cliffhanger, but yeah, I wasn't really happy with Rebecca Yarros. I was a
Oh
little
boy.
like, what are we
Well,
doing? But you
she
said it
has
well a
had
few weeks ago that she's a little
what?
ruthless.
She is brutal. And for this book series in particular, every single book has left off with a cliffhanger.
Why?
I mean,
Why do we gotta do that?
I love it. But also I will say, like, if we compare the ACOTAR series, for example, those books have been out for so long that when I was reading them for the first time and I had those sort of cliffhangers, I could just immediately jump into the next book. We can't do that with this series, so
Yes,
it's very hard.
that is very true. And I do recognize that because I did read ACOTAR for the first time last year. And I jumped from book 1 to book 2, book 3,
Absolutely.
book.
So did I.
Of course. But I
Yep.
will say, SJM, she only really left the only cliffhanger with SJM. I mean, brutal cliffhanger, like Iron Flame type feeling cliffhanger, like that.
Mm.
The only one, there might be two. Well, there might be two. I'm gonna say is TOG.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
The last book, Kingdom of Ash.
that wasn't really a cliffhanger. It finished. The story finished.
Well, there were a couple of characters that
Yes,
things
yeah,
were
but
left
yes, they
open.
were, they were. But I'm talking about
Okay.
cliffhanger. The
Okay,
only
so
one that
which
was
one are you
really a
thinking?
cliffhanger was which one?
I'm asking you, which one?
It was I don't want to give it away for people who haven't read TOG, but I think it was the one
No.
where she's in the island. They're at the water.
Oh, duh. Okay,
You know what I'm
6.
saying?
Book 6. Can I
No,
name the
not
title?
Tower of Dawn. It was the
Empire
book.
of
It
Storms.
was the book before. It was book 5, I think it is. The book before Tower of Dawn.
Okay, so you're thinking Empire of Storms, yes?
Empire of Storms. I
Yes.
think
Okay.
Empire of Storms was such. It was if I had read Empire of Storms when that book actually came out, I would have been
Oh yeah.
unwell like I am with Onyx Storm, or
Yeah.
maybe more. I would have been so unwell because that book
Maybe
is a
we're
cliffhanger.
counting differently also because there is that one book, The Assassin's Blade, that's a prequel. So I don't know where
Yeah,
anyway. So I
yeah,
may have said the book number wrong, but yes, Empire of Storm. When I read that series though, I did the tandem read, but I know that the people who did not, yes, I can only imagine how they felt at the end of
yes,
that.
yes. So
What a
that was, but
cliffhanger.
other than that, SJM really doesn't leave off with like major clip. I mean, is it to be continued? Yes, yes. It's not it's not resolved.
Yes.
We have more to go. There's another story to tell.
Mhm.
But it's not really a brutal cliffhanger. The only other one that left in a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it was bad. It was a cliffhanger, but it wasn't bad. Was that I can remember anyway, and I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember back, but was Crescent City, and I can't remember if it was the
Probably the second book
first
because
or second one. It
the
ended with a little
second
bit of a
book.
cliffhanger, but it wasn't.
Mhm.
It wasn't a bad cliffhanger.
No.
Really, it was.
It
It
was
wasn't
an
a bad
exciting
cliffhanger.
one,
It was
but
an
also like
exciting. It was
but
yes,
also I was like,
yes,
WTF is happening right now. I remember
yes.
that.
Lot of questions,
Like,
lot of questions with that, but it's
so
exciting.
good.
You were like, "Oh, but wait, but wait." You know what I
Can
mean?
I tell you something
So,
funny about that? Let me tell you this. My friend
tell
Carrie,
me.
who's the one who got me into the SJM universe, right? Um, when I was on that book, Crescent City too, and she knew I had like the last chapter or whatever, she
Right, right.
actually had me FaceTime her so she could be creepy. She was like, I want to watch you start reading. She watched me read. Like I was on camera reading.
That
And
is
then
so
and
funny.
then she not the whole chapter, but she just waited for me to get to that part. And I like the sound I made and she was like, "Okay, I'll talk to you later." Like she just wanted to be there for my
Oh my gosh.
moment. She's cool. She's so funny like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so cliffhangers are a thing. It
So
sounds like
cliffhanger.
Onyx
So
Storm
yeah,
has
so
got one.
SJM, yes, SJM a
Whoop,
couple
whoop.
of times, a little cliffhanger here or there, but not really brutal. I mean,
No.
the one in Empire of Storms was brutal. That was a brutal one, but
Yes.
other than that, not really crazy, but I feel like Rebecca Yarros, like, we're like 3 for 3. Well, Fourth Wing wasn't too bad, a little bit. But Iron Flame and now this,
Do you think
it's kind of
since
killing
you
me.
do you think the cliffhanger at the end of Iron Flame was more um emotionally scarring than the cliffhanger of this book, Onyx Storm, without giving anything away?
Um,
Or is that impossible to
emotionally,
answer?
I'm probably. I think Iron Flame, the cliffhanger was probably worse.
Okay.
But this cliffhanger, um, maybe because we're more invested with the characters, we're further along in the story, we're more invested, we love them more. Maybe, um, I don't know, maybe it feels a little different. If it's
Well,
not
I
the
look
same, but
forward
it's
to
it
finishing.
feels it's yeah. I'm not okay. I'm like not okay with it, but I have some thoughts and some theories, and I think it's the only way that I've reconciled the ending for now. For now, I have my theories, and I'm gonna just sit in my little theory, sit with my theories until the next book comes out, because otherwise I'm not gonna be okay. So I just have my ideas about what really happens, and I'll share that
Okay.
when we have our meeting, and also when we have our when we have the Onyx Storm episode. I'll share that. But it's going to be interesting to kind of hear what everybody else thinks, and I cannot wait for you. Can you finish already,
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm gonna read
girl?
tonight.
Like we got to talk.
I I know. I'm sorry. I had to finish Una. I could not. I had to finish Una, and then I did, and then I started, and then I will get there. I promise. Okay, what's next?
Please text me when
We
you're
we have
done.
to get off. We have to get off the Sonic Storm topic, or we'll be here all night.
I know.
But I
We'll
will
be here.
text you. I promise.
Yes, I know
The
you will.
minute I finish.
All right. Um, the last book I read, actually, I read this book before I read. So, Onyx Storm came out on the 21st, but you know, Ada
Mhm.
Ray, the Spicy Nook, her debut novel, The Pleasure Principle, came out. Um, and I'm an ARC reader, as you know, for that book. And she's my girl. So I the ARC the book for the ARC readers was, I think it was coming out on this, it might have been the same day as Onyx Storm, or it was the next day. I can't remember what it was. It was like either the same day or the next day. She was emailing the ARC book, or emailing the book to her ARC readers, to her ARC
Mhm.
reviewers. I started her book, The Pleasure Principle, which is a contemporary romance novel, very spicy. And I started that book the night before Onyx Storm came out.
Oh my
Onyx Storm came out at
goodness.
midnight, like a few hours later, but I didn't start Onyx Storm until it took me a couple of days, because I actually was like I was like reading her book and I was like into it. I was like, and I was like trying to avoid like social media, because I was like, I don't want to have spoilers for Onyx Storm. So
Right.
I actually waited to read Onyx Storm for a couple of days because I was reading her book, The Pleasure Principle. So I read her book. Um, I mean, look, her whole thing is spice. That's her jam. It is a very spicy novel, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, but without giving it away. Because I think the book comes out on February 22nd. But I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It's basically this woman who I don't know if I think this is, I can't remember what I'll just say. So this is woman. She's having a moment. I think she's like at home, like drinking wine, and she orders all these sex toys from this like sex shop in New York City. But she like overspends, and she's drunk, like she's like out of her mind drunk, and she doesn't realize that she spent all this money. So she gets like this. The next morning, she realizes, like she opens up her laptop and she's like, "Oh my god, what did I do?" Anyway, long story short, the owner reaches out to her to like test this new toy and be like a be like on their like panel or whatever. So it's this whole story about how she ends up going to this like sex shop. She is like, I mean, this is like they're doing like real research. Like it's real. It's like a real, like there's like all these people that are reviewing, and she's, one of them. Um and yeah, so it's just kind of how that relationship between her name is Hazel, and the owner of the company, of the sex shop, his name is, it's like a whole big company. His name is Kai. And it's kind of how that relationship kind of unfolds.
Oh,
And what it starts out
interesting.
as, it kind of starts out one way, but it kind of turns into something else. And it's just this whole romantic. So it's very spicy, it's very sexy. But there's a lot of romance, and there's love. So, there's a very strong, there's a story behind it. Um, it's very good. It was a very interesting novel. Um, and I really enjoyed it. So I actually didn't read Onyx Storm for a couple of days because I was reading that book. Because I was like, I got to finish. Like I got it. I was like,
I
I was totally into it.
yeah, I have my calendar marked February 22nd to snag that.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's
So I'm
definitely
glad you love
different. It's like it's very steamy, but I loved it. Like if you're for that, this is your jam. Like this is your book. I loved it. And I think she's writing like a second book now to go along with it.
Oh, even
So
better.
yeah, so like I think it's gonna be like a whole thing. So very exciting. Very excited for that. Um, but and she's coming on, I think on the podcast in March. So we'll have an episode to cover that, to cover the book. And we'll really get into it. I don't want to give too much away right now. Um, but yeah, so those are my reads, and hopefully tonight I'm gonna start Powerless
Yes.
by
Lauren Roberts. I've heard so many good things.
Lauren Roberts.
Love it. Lauren Roberts. I will
I'm gonna get it
be
right.
working on Onyx Storm, and then I'm hoping to get my arc read for Erin Fitzgerald.
Yes.
She said she's like, oh my gosh, I'm pushing this deadline. She was making some last minute edits, and I'm like, hey, I can only imagine how that must be.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that'll be
Pressure.
next. All
Yep.
right.
Kelsey, thank you again for just agreeing to chat with me. I always love talking to you. I really do. I don't just say that.
It's the best. It really
It's
is
the
the best.
best. I just love it. It's so easy. It's like we don't even like you messaged me this morning. You're like, so like, do we have like an agenda or are we just like, are we just gonna
No,
like
we just
wing it?
go for it. We
I was
wing
like,
it.
no, we'll just go for it. We'll be fine.
We
We'll be
can
right.
do that.
We can do it.
All right.
Thank you again. You can find Kelsey on Bookstagram at Plot Up in the Moment. Thank you guys so much. Take care.